Brianna stared at her phone screen, reading the text message for the 5th time. The words hadn't changed, but somehow she kept hoping they would rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Something that didn't feel like a knife twisting in her chest. "We're in Hawaii. Take care of the kids. Nathan." Her hands shook as she looked up from the phone to see her 4 children standing in the grocery store parking lot, each holding a different expression of confusion. 8-year-old Tyler clutched his soccer ball, his brown eyes wide with questions she couldn't answer. 11-year-old Sophia had that look she got when she was trying to solve a math problem that was too hard. The twins, Emma and Ethan, only 6 years old, were tugging at her dress, asking when Daddy was coming to help carry the groceries. "Mommy?" Sophia's voice cut through the afternoon air. "Where's Daddy? He said he'd meet us here after his work meeting." Brianna's throat felt like sandpaper. Nathan had kissed her goodbye that morning, the same way he had for 12 years of marriage. He'd ruffled Tyler's hair, told Sophia to help Mommy with the twins, and promised to meet them at the store at 3 o'clock to help with the weekly shopping. It was 3:47 now, and instead of her husband she had a text message that felt like a bomb going off in her chest. "We're in Hawaii." Wait. Not, "I'm in Hawaii." Not, "I had to travel for work." Wait. Her phone buzzed with another message, this one with a photo attachment. Brianna's stomach dropped as the image loaded. Nathan, her husband of 12 years, the father of her 4 beautiful children, was on a beach. His arm was wrapped around a woman with long blonde hair and a bright yellow bikini. They were both smiling, drinks in their hands, looking like they didn't have a care in the world. The woman looked young. Younger than Brianna's 34 years. She had perfect teeth and the kind of tan that came from having time to lie on beaches instead of chasing 4 kids around suburban Atlanta. "Mommy, you're scaring me," Tyler said, moving closer to her side. "Your face looks weird." Brianna realized she'd been standing frozen in the parking lot for several minutes, her children gathered around her like lost puppies. Other shoppers were walking past, loading their cars with groceries, living their normal lives while hers fell apart in real time. She forced herself to breathe. In through her nose, out through her mouth, just like she taught the kids when they got overwhelmed. She was the adult here. She was their mother. Whatever Nathan had done, whatever this meant, her children needed her to hold it together. "Daddy had to go away for work," she heard herself saying, though the words felt like lies on her tongue. It was very sudden. He'll call later to explain. But even as she said it, she tried calling Nathan's number. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. He turned off his phone or blocked her number. Sophia, always too smart for her own good, was studying Brianna's face with the intensity of a detective. "Mommy, are you crying?" Brianna touched her cheek and realized it was wet. She wiped the tears away quickly, trying to smile for her children. "Just something in my eye, baby. Come on, let's get our shopping done." The next hour passed in a blur. Brianna pushed the cart through the aisles on autopilot, the kids chattering around her while her mind reeled. Nathan had planned this. He'd looked her in the eye that morning, kissed her goodbye, made promises about helping with groceries, all while knowing he was about to abandon them for another woman. How long had this been going on? How long had he been lying to her face, sleeping in their bed, playing daddy to their children, all while planning his escape? At the checkout line, Emma tugged on her dress again. "Mommy, can we get the cookies Daddy likes?" "Daddy's not here, dummy," Ethan said with the brutal honesty of a 6-year-old. "He's coming back though, right?" Emma's lower lip started to tremble. Brianna knelt down to Emma's level, trying to keep her voice steady. "We're going to be okay, sweetheart. No matter what happens, Mommy's going to take care of you." It wasn't exactly an answer, but it was all she could give right now. Loading the groceries into her SUV, Brianna's phone rang. For a wild moment, hope flared in her chest. Maybe it was Nathan calling to explain, to apologize, to tell her this was all some horrible mistake. It was her mother. "Brianna, honey, I just saw Nathan's Facebook post. He's in Hawaii? I thought you said you couldn't afford a vacation this year because of Tyler's orthodontist bills." Nathan's Facebook post. Of course. He was posting about his betrayal on social media like it was something to celebrate. "Mom, I can't talk right now. I'm with the kids." "But honey, why didn't he take you and the children? It's not like Nathan to take a trip without." "Mom, I really can't talk." Brianna's voice cracked despite her efforts to stay calm. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Her mother had raised 5 children and had been married for 40 years. She recognized the sound of a woman whose world was falling apart. "Brianna Elizabeth, what's going on? Where are you?" "I'm at the grocery store." Nathan left us, Mom. "He's in Hawaii with another woman." The words hung in the air like a curse she couldn't take back. "I'm coming over," her mother said immediately. "No, Mom, I'm okay. I need to figure this out myself." "You are not okay, and you don't have to figure this out alone. I'll be at your house in 20 minutes. By the time Brianna got the kids and groceries home, her mother's car was already in the driveway. Patricia Williams had been beautiful in her youth and was still striking at 62, with silver hair she wore in an elegant bob and the kind of posture that came from years of teaching elementary school. She was also fiercely protective of her children and grandchildren. "Grandma!" the twins shrieked, running toward her. Patricia hugged them tight, but her eyes were on Brianna, taking in every detail of her daughter's tear-stained face and shaking hands. "Kids, why don't you go play in the backyard for a bit?" Patricia suggested. "I need to help Mommy with the groceries." Once the children were outside, Patricia pulled Brianna into a hug that finally broke through her defenses. Brianna sobbed against her mother's shoulder, 12 years of marriage and 4 children's worth of love and trust crumbling around her. "He just left, Mom. He kissed me goodbye this morning and then sent me a text saying he's in Hawaii with some woman. He told me to take care of the kids like they're not his responsibility anymore." Patricia held her daughter tighter. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I don't understand how this happened. How did I not see this coming? How could he do this to the kids?" "Because you're a good person who trusts the people you love," Patricia said firmly. "This is not your fault, Brianna. This is Nathan's failure, not yours." They were interrupted by Tyler running in from the backyard. "Mom, Sophia's crying. She says Daddy's never coming back." Brianna wiped her eyes and followed Tyler outside. She found Sophia sitting on the swing set, tears streaming down her face. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" "I heard you talking to Grandma," Sophia said, her voice small. "Daddy left us for another lady, didn't he?" There was no point in lying. Sophia was too smart and the truth would come out eventually anyway. "Yes, baby. Daddy made a very bad choice. But you know what? We're going to be okay. You, me, Tyler, Emma, and Ethan. We're a family and we're going to take care of each other." "But why would Daddy leave us?" Sophia asked, the question that was breaking Brianna's heart. "I don't know, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that don't make sense. But I promise you this is not because of anything you did. You are perfect and I love you so much." That evening, after her mother had helped get the kids fed and ready for bed, Brianna sat alone in her living room staring at her phone. Nathan had posted 3 more photos on social media. Sunset dinners, beach walks, champagne toasts. He was flaunting his betrayal like it was an achievement. She tried calling him one more time. This time he actually answered. "Brianna." His voice was cold, distant, like she was a stranger instead of his wife. "Nathan, what the hell is going on? You left our children in a parking lot. You abandoned your family for some woman I've never even heard of. Look, Bree, this has been a long time coming. We both know our marriage has been over for years. I just finally did something about it." "Our marriage was over?" "News to me, Nathan. This morning you kissed me goodbye and told me you loved me. I was trying to spare your feelings. Make the transition easier." "Transition? What transition? You didn't transition anything. You just disappeared. I left you a text. I told you to take care of the kids. They're your kids too. You can't just abandon them because you want to play house with your girlfriend." There was a pause, and when Nathan spoke again, his voice was defensive. "Violet and I are in love, Bree. Real love. Something you and I never had." "Violet. So that was her name. We have 4 children together, Nathan. We built a life together. How can you throw that away for someone you probably barely know?" "I know her better than I ever knew you. She understands me. She makes me feel alive again." Each word was like a physical blow. "So this is it? You're just never coming home?" "I'm coming back next week to get my things and talk to the kids. Violet and I are moving in together. I want joint custody." The audacity took Brianna's breath away. "Joint custody? You abandoned them, Nathan. You don't get to play part-time daddy after what you've done. I'm their father. I have rights." "Rights? You gave up your rights when you chose to disappear to Hawaii instead of coming home to your family. Don't be dramatic, Bree. We can work this out like adults. Adults don't abandon their families via text message, Nathan. I'll be home Monday. We'll figure out the details then." The line went dead. Brianna stared at her phone in the dark living room, fury beginning to replace the shock and grief. Nathan thought he could just waltz back into their lives on his terms, that she'd quietly go along with whatever arrangement worked best for him and his new girlfriend. He was about to learn how wrong he was. The morning after Nathan's phone call, Brianna woke up to find Emma standing beside her bed, holding her stuffed elephant and crying silently. The sight broke what was left of Brianna's heart. "What's wrong, baby?" "I dreamed Daddy came home, but when I woke up, he still wasn't here." Brianna pulled her youngest daughter into bed beside her, holding her close. "I know it's hard, sweetheart. I miss Daddy too. Is he going to come back for my birthday next month?" Emma's 6th birthday was in 3 weeks. Nathan had already promised to take her to the zoo and buy her the bike she'd been asking for. Now Brianna would have to explain why Daddy wouldn't be there, why promises didn't mean anything anymore. "I don't know what Daddy's plans are, Em. But I promise Mommy will make your birthday special no matter what." The twins climbed into bed too, followed by Tyler and Sophia. Soon all 5 of them were cuddled together in the king-size bed that suddenly felt too big and too empty. "Can we stay home from school today?" Tyler asked. Brianna wanted to say yes. She wanted to pull the covers over all their heads and pretend the outside world didn't exist. But life didn't stop just because Nathan had decided to blow up their family. "School is important, buddy. Besides, keeping busy will help us feel better." Getting 4 children ready for school when you felt like you'd been hit by a truck was harder than Brianna had expected. She forgot to pack Tyler's lunch, couldn't find Sophia's homework folder, and the twins both had meltdowns about wearing matching outfits. "Why can't everything just be the same?" Sophia asked as Brianna finally got them all in the car. "Change is hard," Brianna said, starting the engine. "But sometimes change can lead to good things too." She hoped that was true. Right now it felt like a lie. At Tyler's school, his teacher Mrs. Rodriguez pulled Brianna aside. "Is everything all right? Tyler seems upset this morning, and he's usually such a happy boy." Brianna had been dreading this conversation. Soon everyone would know. The other parents, the teachers, the neighbors. Her marriage's failure would become public knowledge, something for people to whisper about at soccer games and school pickup. "My husband and I are going through some difficulties. Tyler's having a hard time with it." Mrs. Rodriguez's expression softened with understanding. "I'm sorry to hear that. If there's anything the school can do to support Tyler during this transition, please let us know." Transition. There was that word again. As if Nathan's abandonment was just another life phase to navigate, like potty training or learning to ride a bike. After dropping all the kids at their respective schools, Brianna sat in her car in the empty parking lot and let herself fall apart. She cried for the family she thought she'd built, for the future she'd planned, for her children's innocence that Nathan had shattered with a single text message. Her phone buzzed with notifications. More Facebook posts from Nathan's Hawaiian adventure. Him and Violet hiking to a waterfall. Them sharing a plate of fresh pineapple. Her husband, grinning like a teenager on spring break while their children cried themselves to sleep. Brianna had never felt such rage in her life. She drove to her best friend Candace's house. They'd been friends since college, had been each other's bridesmaids, and Candace was godmother to Tyler. If anyone could help her make sense of this nightmare, it would be Candace. Candace took one look at Brianna's face and pulled her inside. "What happened? You look like hell." "Nathan left me. He's in Hawaii with another woman. He abandoned the kids." Candace's jaw dropped. What? How?" Brianna told her everything, showing her the text messages and Facebook posts. Candace's expression grew darker with each detail. "That son of a bitch," Candace said when Brianna finished. "I never liked him, you know that, but I never thought he was capable of something this cruel." "You never liked Nathan?" "He always struck me as selfish. Remember when Tyler was born and Nathan complained about having to get up for night feedings because it affected his work performance? What kind of father says that about his newborn son?" Brianna had forgotten about that. Or maybe she'd chosen not to remember. Looking back now, there had been signs. Nathan's increasing irritation with family obligations, his secretive behavior with his phone, the way he'd started working late more often. "I feel so stupid, Candace. How did I not see this coming?" "Because you're not a mind reader and you trusted your husband. That's what normal people do in a marriage." They spent the morning going through Brianna's options. Candace, who worked as a paralegal, had some knowledge of family law. "You need to see a lawyer immediately," she said. "Like today. Nathan can't just abandon his responsibilities and expect to dictate terms when he comes back. He wants joint custody." "Of course he does. He wants to look like the good guy while you do all the actual work of parenting. Don't let him get away with it, Bree. Document everything. The text message, the Facebook posts, the fact that he left them in a parking lot. No judge is going to look kindly on that." That afternoon, Brianna called 5 divorce attorneys. The first 3 were booked solid for weeks. The 4th could see her the following week. The fifth, Margaret Chin, had a cancellation and could see her that afternoon. Margaret Chin's office was in a downtown high-rise, all glass and steel, and the kind of professional intimidation that cost serious money. Brianna wondered if she could afford someone this impressive, then reminded herself that Nathan's betrayal had made that decision for her. Margaret was a small woman with sharp eyes and an expensive suit. She listened without interrupting as Brianna explained the situation, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. "How long were you married?" Margaret asked. 12 years. We met in college. Children? 4. Tyler's 8, Sophia's 11, and the twins Emma and Ethan are 6. Your husband's income? He's a financial advisor. He makes about $90,000 a year. I work part-time as a substitute teacher, maybe $15,000 a year. Margaret nodded, still writing. Assets. Our house, it's worth about $300,000. We still owe $200 on the mortgage. 2 cars, both financed. His 401k savings accounts. I'm not sure of all the details. Nathan handles our finances. That's going to change, Margaret said firmly. From now on, you handle your own finances. Do you have access to your bank accounts? Yes, we have joint accounts. Good. Tomorrow morning, first thing, you're going to go to the bank and open your own checking and savings accounts. Transfer half of whatever's in your joint accounts. It's your money too. Is that legal? Perfectly legal. It's your money. You're married, which means you have equal access to marital assets. Your husband clearly doesn't have any problem accessing marital funds for his Hawaiian vacation. Margaret was right. Nathan was probably spending their money on fancy dinners and resort hotels while she worried about paying the mortgage. What about the house? Do you want to keep it? The kids have lived there their whole lives. It's the only home they know. Then we'll fight for it. With 4 children and your husband's abandonment, we have a strong case. But you need to understand this is going to be expensive. A contested divorce with child custody issues can cost $20,000 to $30,000. Brianna's stomach dropped. She didn't have that kind of money. However, Margaret continued, if your husband has been hiding assets or spending marital funds on his affair, we can ask the court to make him pay your legal fees. Infidelity and financial deception don't look good to judges. They spent another hour going over details, timelines, and strategy. By the time Brianna left Margaret's office, she felt more in control than she had since reading Nathan's text message. She picked up the kids from school and tried to act normal, but Tyler saw right through her. "Mom, are you getting divorced?" he asked while she made dinner. "Why would you ask that, honey?" "Because Jimmy Henderson's parents got divorced last year, and his mom had the same look you have now. All sad but trying to pretend she's not sad." Brianna knelt down to Tyler's level. All 4 kids had stopped what they were doing to listen. "Daddy and I are having some serious problems right now. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I want you to know that no matter what, you are loved. You're safe. And this is not your fault." "Are we going to have to move?" Sophia asked, always the practical one. "I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you don't have to leave your home or change schools." "What about Daddy?" Emma asked in a small voice. "I don't know yet, sweetheart. Daddy is going to have to make some choices about what kind of father he wants to be." That night, after the kids were in bed, Brianna sat at the kitchen table with a bottle of wine and Nathan's laptop. He'd left it behind, probably because he had a newer one for work. She knew his passwords. They'd never kept secrets from each other. Or at least she'd never kept secrets from him. What she found made her sick to her stomach. Email after email with Violet Morrison, dating back 6 months. Love letters, explicit photos, detailed plans for their Hawaiian getaway. But worse than the affair was what else she found. Nathan had opened a secret credit card. He'd been transferring money from their savings account to a new account she'd never heard of. He'd been planning this for months, slowly moving their assets where she couldn't access them. He hadn't just abandoned them on a whim. This was calculated, premeditated financial betrayal. Brianna printed everything, her hands shaking with rage. Margaret had been right. Nathan was trying to leave her with nothing while he started his new life with Violet. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd left behind evidence of everything. At 8 a.m. the next morning, Brianna was standing outside First National Bank when they unlocked the doors. She'd barely slept, spending most of the night printing emails and financial documents from Nathan's computer. Every new piece of evidence had stoked her fury higher. The bank manager, Mrs. Thompson, was someone Brianna recognized from years of routine transactions. She'd helped them open their mortgage, had congratulated them when Tyler was born. Today her expression was all business. "I'd like to open my own checking and savings accounts," Brianna said. "Of course. Are you closing your joint accounts with Nathan? Not yet. But I need my own accounts moving forward. Mrs. Thompson nodded without asking questions. She'd probably seen this scenario before. I also need to transfer some funds from our joint savings. Half of what's currently in there. Mrs. Thompson pulled up their account information on her computer, and Brianna saw her eyebrows raise slightly. Mrs. Johnson, there's only about $2,000 in your joint savings account currently. That's impossible. We had almost $20,000 last month. Mrs. Thompson turned her screen so Brianna could see. Multiple large withdrawals over the past 6 weeks, all authorized by Nathan. $15,000 gone, transferred to an account Brianna had never heard of. I need printouts of all transactions for the past 6 months, Brianna said, her voice steady despite the fury building in her chest. I can do that, but I'll need to charge a fee for. I don't care about the fee. While Mrs. Thompson processed the paperwork, Brianna called Margaret Chin. He cleaned out our savings, Brianna said when Margaret answered. Almost $20,000, moved to an account I've never seen before. That son of a bitch, Margaret said. That's exactly the kind of thing we need to document. Are you getting bank records? Right now. Good. Bring everything to my office this afternoon. We're going to nail him to the wall. After the bank, Brianna drove to Nathan's office. She'd only been there a handful of times in 12 years. Nathan liked to keep his work life separate from his family. Now she wondered if there were other things he'd been keeping separate too. The receptionist, a young woman named Jessica, looked surprised to see her. Mrs. Johnson. How nice to see you. Is Nathan expecting you? Actually, Nathan's out of town on business. I was hoping to speak with his supervisor. Oh, Mr. Peterson is in a meeting, but I could. It's quite urgent, Brianna said with a smile that felt like it might crack her face. Family emergency. 10 minutes later, she was sitting across from Tom Peterson, Nathan's boss for the past 5 years. Tom looked uncomfortable, shifting in his chair and avoiding eye contact. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, Tom, but Nathan's in Hawaii with another woman. He abandoned our 4 children and cleaned out our savings account. I'm trying to understand if there are any work-related issues I should know about. Tom's face went pale. Mrs. Johnson, I had no idea about your personal situation. But I have to tell you, Nathan's been having some problems here at work. What kind of problems? There have been some discrepancies in client accounts. Nothing we could prove, but irregularities. We were planning to conduct a formal audit when he came back from his vacation. Brianna's blood ran cold. What kind of irregularities? I really shouldn't be discussing this with you, but given the circumstances, we think Nathan may have been skimming money from client accounts to cover personal expenses. Small amounts spread across multiple accounts, but it adds up. How much money are we talking about? Potentially $50,000 to $70,000 over the past year. Brianna felt like she might throw up. Nathan hadn't just betrayed their marriage and abandoned their children. He'd been stealing from clients to fund his affair. Tom, I need you to know that I had no knowledge of any of this. I would never be party to fraud. Of course not. But Mrs. Johnson, when this comes out, and it will come out, Nathan's going to face criminal charges. You need to protect yourself and your children. Driving home from Nathan's office, Brianna's phone rang constantly. Margaret Chin, her mother, Candace. She ignored them all. She needed time to process what she'd learned. Nathan wasn't just an unfaithful husband. He was a thief, a criminal. And now his crimes were going to destroy what was left of her life. At home, she spread all the evidence across her dining room table like pieces of a puzzle. Bank statements, credit card bills, printed emails, work records. The picture they painted was devastating. For months, Nathan had been living a double life. Stealing money from clients, hiding assets from his wife, carrying on an affair, all while playing the role of devoted husband and father. The Hawaii trip alone had cost $8,000. Money stolen from their children's future to fund his betrayal. But as Brianna studied the evidence, she realized something else. Nathan had been sloppy, arrogant. He'd left digital footprints everywhere because he never thought she'd be smart enough to find them. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Her phone rang again. This time it was a number she didn't recognize. Hello? Is this Brianna Johnson? Yes. Mrs. Johnson, this is Detective Rivera with the Atlanta Police Department. I'm calling about your husband, Nathan Johnson. Brianna's heart stopped. Is he hurt? Is there an accident? No ma'am, nothing like that. We've received a complaint from Peterson Financial regarding possible embezzlement. We understand Nathan is currently out of town. He's in Hawaii. With another woman. He left me and our 4 children. There was a pause. I see. Mrs. Johnson, we're going to need to speak with you about Nathan's activities over the past year. Are you available to come in for an interview? Am I in trouble? At this point we just need information. But you should know that if charges are filed against Nathan, any assets purchased with stolen money could be subject to seizure. After Detective Rivera hung up, Brianna sat in her kitchen and finally let herself fall apart completely. Not just crying, but the kind of soul-deep breakdown that shook her entire body. Her marriage was over. Her husband was a criminal. Her children's father had stolen money that would now have to be paid back, probably leaving them with nothing. But as she cried, something else began to build inside her. Not just grief and shock, but a cold, determined fury. Nathan had thought he could destroy their lives without consequences. He'd assumed she'd be too weak, too dependent, too broken to fight back. He'd made a terrible miscalculation. Brianna wiped her eyes and picked up her phone. She had calls to make, evidence to organize, and a battle plan to develop. Nathan wanted a war? He was about to get one. But first, she needed to tell her children that their father wasn't just absent. He was a criminal. And somehow, she needed to find a way to do it that didn't destroy what was left of their childhood innocence. That evening, with all 4 kids gathered in the living room, Brianna took a deep breath and began the hardest conversation of her life. Kids, I need to tell you some things about Daddy that are going to be hard to hear. But I want you to know that no matter what happens, we're going to be okay. We have each other, and that's all we really need. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of activity that left Brianna exhausted but strangely energized. For the first time since Nathan's text message, she felt like she had some control over the situation. She met with Detective Rivera and turned over all the evidence she'd found on Nathan's computer. The detective, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude, was impressed with Brianna's thoroughness. Mrs. Johnson, you've done our job for us, Detective Rivera said, flipping through the printed emails and financial documents. This is enough evidence to charge your husband with embezzlement and fraud. The question now is whether he'll cooperate or make us extradite him from Hawaii. What does that mean for me and my children? The stolen money will have to be paid back, but since you clearly had no knowledge of the crimes and you're cooperating with our investigation, the prosecutor is willing to work with you on a payment plan. The important thing is protecting your family's legitimate assets. Margaret Chen was even more pleased with the evidence when Brianna brought everything to her office. This changes everything, Margaret said, spreading the documents across her conference table. Nathan's not just an unfaithful husband anymore. He's a criminal who used marital assets to fund his crimes. We can argue that every penny he spent on his affair was stolen money, which means you're entitled to restitution. But what about the money he owes to his clients? That's Nathan's problem, not yours. You're the victim here too, Brianna. Don't forget that. Margaret was already working on freezing Nathan's assets and filing emergency motions to protect the house and Brianna's rights to custody. She'd also found a forensic accountant who specialized in tracing hidden assets in divorce cases. Nathan thinks he's been clever moving money around, but criminals always leave trails. We're going to find every penny he's hidden and make sure it goes towards supporting your children instead of funding his new life. While the legal machine ground into motion, Brianna focused on creating stability for her kids. She established new routines, trying to fill the gaps Nathan's absence had created. She started cooking dinner with the kids instead of waiting for Nathan to come home. She began helping Tyler with homework in the evenings, something Nathan had usually done. She took over bedtime stories for the twins. It was exhausting doing everything alone but also revealing. The kids seemed more relaxed without Nathan's unpredictable moods. Tyler was chattering more at dinner. Sophia was smiling again. The twins had stopped asking when Daddy was coming home. "Mom," Sophia said one evening while they were making pancakes for dinner, "are you happier now?" The question caught Brianna off guard. "What do you mean, sweetheart? You seem, I don't know, like you're not as worried all the time. Even though you're sad about Daddy." Brianna realized Sophia was right. Even in the midst of the crisis, she felt lighter somehow. She wasn't walking on eggshells anymore, wondering what mood Nathan would be in when he came home. She wasn't making excuses for his behavior or trying to manage his relationship with the kids. "I am sad about Daddy," Brianna said carefully, "but I'm not worried about taking care of you guys. I know we can handle whatever comes next." The kids were handling the situation better than she'd expected. Tyler had confided in her that some of his friends' parents were divorced, and they seemed okay. Sophia had started keeping a journal, which her school counselor said was a healthy way to process her feelings. The twins, being younger, had adapted quickest of all. They still asked about Daddy sometimes, but they weren't crying themselves to sleep anymore. Brianna also started building a support network she'd never realized she needed. Her mother came over every few days to help with dinner and homework. Candace picked up the kids from school when Brianna had meetings with lawyers or detectives. Other parents from the kids' schools, women who'd gone through divorces themselves, reached out with offers of help and understanding. "You're stronger than you think," said Rebecca Martinez, another single mom from Tyler's soccer team. "The first few months are the hardest, but then you realize you can do this. You can do anything." Rebecca was right. Every day Brianna handled alone made her feel more capable, more confident. She fixed the garbage disposal when it stopped working instead of waiting for Nathan to do it. She helped Sophia with her science project, something Nathan had always claimed was his job. She balanced the checkbook and paid bills and made decisions about the kids' schedules without consulting anyone. It was liberating in a way she hadn't expected. But the real test came when Nathan finally called again. It was Friday evening, a week and a half after he'd left. The kids were watching a movie in the living room while Brianna cleaned up dinner dishes. Her phone rang and Nathan's name appeared on the screen. She almost didn't answer. But she needed to know what he was planning, needed to hear his voice to gauge whether he understood the legal trouble he was in. "Hello, Nathan. Bree, we need to talk." His voice was different, tighter, less confident than it had been in their last conversation. "I'm listening." "I got a call from Tom Peterson. He said the police have been asking questions about me. He said you came to my office." "I did. I wanted to understand why my husband had suddenly abandoned his family. Imagine my surprise when I learned he's also been stealing money from his clients." There was a long pause. When Nathan spoke again, his voice was defensive. "It's not what you think, Bree. I was just borrowing money. I was going to pay it back." "With what money, Nathan?" "You cleaned out our savings account to pay for your Hawaiian vacation with your girlfriend. Look, things got complicated. I made some mistakes, but you stole $70,000 from your clients. You moved our money to accounts I couldn't access. You abandoned your children in a parking lot. Those aren't mistakes, Nathan. Those are crimes. The kids are fine. You're being dramatic." The casual dismissal of their children's pain ignited something fierce in Brianna's chest. "Our 6-year-old daughter has nightmares every night. Our 8-year-old son asked me if Daddy left because he wasn't good enough. Our 11-year-old is seeing a counselor because she thinks it's her fault. But sure, Nathan. The kids are fine. I never meant for them to get hurt." "Then you should have thought about that before you decided to blow up their lives for some woman you've known for 6 months. Violet and I have been together longer than that. I know exactly how long you've been together, Nathan. I found all your emails, all your love letters, all your plans to steal money from our family to fund your affair." Another pause. Longer this time. "You went through my computer?" "It's our computer, Nathan. Just like it was our money you stole and our family you destroyed. Look, I'm coming home tomorrow. We can work this out." "Actually, you're not." "What do you mean I'm not?" "I mean Detective Rivera would like to speak with you about the embezzlement charges. I'm sure she'd be happy to arrange for your arrest at the airport." The silence that followed was so long Brianna thought he'd hung up. "You called the police on me?" His voice was incredulous, like she'd betrayed him instead of the other way around. "I didn't have to call anyone, Nathan. Your boss called them when the audit revealed what you've been doing. I just cooperated with their investigation. You know, like a law-abiding citizen. I can't believe you would do this to me. I'm the father of your children. You stopped being the father of my children when you abandoned them for another woman. You stopped being my husband when you stole from our family to pay for your affair. What you are now, Nathan, is a criminal. And criminals face consequences. This isn't over, Brianna. I have rights. I have a lawyer." "Good. You're going to need one. But just so we're clear, if you come back to Georgia, you'll be arrested. If you try to contact the children without going through the proper legal channels, I'll file harassment charges. If you try to access any of our joint accounts, I'll have you charged with theft. Are we understanding each other? You can't keep my kids from me forever." "I'm not keeping them from you, Nathan. You kept yourself from them. I'm just protecting them from any more damage." She hung up before he could respond. Her hands were shaking, but it was adrenaline, not fear. For the first time since this nightmare began, she felt like she was the one in control. Tyler appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Was that Daddy?" "Yes, it was." "Is he coming home?" "No, sweetie. Daddy has some problems he needs to fix before he can see you guys again." Tyler nodded solemnly. "Good. I don't want him to come back until he says sorry for leaving us." Out of the mouths of babes. That night, after the kids were in bed, Brianna poured herself a glass of wine and sat on her back porch. The night was cool and quiet, and for the first time in weeks she felt peaceful. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Violet. We need to talk." Brianna stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. She had nothing to say to the woman who'd helped destroy her children's family. Let Nathan deal with his girlfriend's guilt or curiosity or whatever was motivating her to reach out. Brianna had more important things to focus on, like building a new life for herself and her kids. A life that didn't include Nathan Johnson or his lies or his crimes. A life where she was finally free. The next morning brought a surprise that Brianna wasn't prepared for. She was making breakfast when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, she saw a young blonde woman she recognized from Nathan's Facebook photos. Violet Morrison was standing on her front porch. Brianna's first instinct was to pretend she wasn't home. She had no desire to face the woman who'd helped destroy her marriage. But curiosity won out. She wanted to see what Nathan's girlfriend had to say for herself. "Can I help you?" Brianna asked through the barely open door, keeping the chain lock in place. "I'm Violet. I think we need to talk." "Actually, we don't. You're not welcome here. Please. I know you hate me and you have every right to. But there are things you need to know about Nathan. Things that affect your children." That got Brianna's attention. Reluctantly, she unchained the door and let Violet inside. Up close, Violet looked younger than her 26 years. She was pretty in a generic way, with the kind of blonde highlights that came from expensive salons and perfect teeth that suggested good dental insurance. But there were dark circles under her eyes, and her hands were shaking. "You have 5 minutes, Brianna said, crossing her arms. "I didn't know about you and the kids when this started," Violet said quickly. "Nathan told me he was divorced. He said his ex-wife was vindictive and wouldn't let him see his children. He showed me fake court documents about custody battles." Brianna felt a familiar stab of rage. "And you believed him?" "I wanted to believe him. I was lonely and Nathan was charming and attentive. He made me feel special." "Congratulations. You're special enough that he abandoned his family for you." Violet winced. "I found out the truth 2 days ago. I saw your Facebook page, saw pictures of you and Nathan together at your anniversary last year. I realized he'd been lying to me about everything." "So you came here to what?" "Apologize. Ease your conscience. I came here to warn you." Violet's voice was urgent now. "Nathan's not coming back to face the police. He's planning to disappear completely. He's been moving money to offshore accounts for months. He thinks if he can just stay gone long enough, everything will blow over." Brianna sat down heavily. She'd wondered why Nathan hadn't boarded a plane home after their phone call. Now she had her answer. "How do you know this?" "Because he tried to get me to run away with him. He has a plan to go to Costa Rica, maybe the Caribbean. Somewhere without extradition treaties. He wanted me to liquidate my savings and come with him. And I told him he was insane. I'm not going to become a fugitive for a man who lied to me about having a wife and 4 kids. I'm not going to help him abandon his children." For the first time since Violet had appeared on her doorstep, Brianna felt something other than anger toward her. "What else do you know?" "He's been planning this for almost a year. The affair with me was just one part of it. He wanted a fresh start, a new identity. He said his old life was suffocating him, that he felt trapped by responsibilities he never wanted." Each word was like a physical blow. Nathan had viewed their children as unwanted responsibilities. Their marriage as a trap to escape from. "There's more," Violet continued. "Nathan's been stealing money from more than just his clients. He forged your signature on loan documents. He took out a second mortgage on your house without telling you. He owes money to people who aren't as patient as banks." The room spun around Brianna. "What kind of people?" "Loan sharks. Gambling debts. Nathan has a serious problem, Mrs. Johnson. He owes almost $100,000 to some very dangerous people." "How do you know all this?" "Because they came looking for him at my apartment yesterday. 2 men who made it very clear what happens to people who don't pay their debts. That's when Nathan told me the truth about everything. He begged me to run away with him because he's terrified of what they'll do if they find him." Brianna felt sick. Nathan hadn't just stolen from his clients and his family. He'd gotten involved with criminals, put himself in danger, and by extension put his children in danger. "Are my kids safe?" "I think so. These men want Nathan, not you." "But Mrs. Johnson, you need to know that Nathan cleaned out every account he could access before he left. There's no money left. He even cashed in his 401k and took the penalty. The reality of their situation hit Brianna like a freight train. Not only had Nathan abandoned them, not only was he a thief and a criminal, but he'd left them financially destroyed and potentially in danger from the people he owed money to. "Why are you telling me this?" Brianna asked. "Because I have a little sister who's 8 years old. When I saw pictures of your kids on Facebook, when I realized what Nathan had done to them, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try to help." For a moment, the two women sat in silence. Then Violet reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. "These are copies of everything Nathan showed me about his financial situation. Bank statements, loan documents, emails with the people he borrowed money from. I thought you might need them for your lawyer." Brianna took the folder with trembling hands. "Thank you." "I'm sorry," Violet said quietly. "I'm sorry for my part in destroying your family. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I needed to say it." After Violet left, Brianna sat at her kitchen table and went through the documents she'd provided. Each page revealed another layer of Nathan's betrayal and deception. He'd remortgaged their house for $60,000 and spent the money on gambling in his affair. He'd forged her signature on loan applications. He'd borrowed money from loan sharks at usurious interest rates. By the time she finished reading, Brianna understood that Nathan hadn't just abandoned his family. He'd systematically destroyed their financial security over the course of months, planning his escape while they slept peacefully in their beds, trusting him to take care of them. The phone call started that afternoon. Margaret Chin first, then Detective Rivera, then the FBI agent who was now involved because Nathan had fled across state lines. Everyone wanted to see the documents Violet had provided. "This changes the scope of our investigation significantly," Detective Rivera said when she came to collect the evidence. "Nathan Johnson isn't just an embezzler anymore. He's a fugitive who's involved with organized crime figures." "What does that mean for my children?" "It means we're going to find him and bring him back to face justice. But it also means you need to be careful. These loan sharks are going to come looking for their money eventually, and they might try to pressure you to give them information about Nathan's whereabouts." "I don't know where he is." "I believe you. But they might not." That evening, Brianna called a family meeting. She gathered all 4 kids in the living room and tried to find age-appropriate ways to explain that their father was in more trouble than she'd originally told them. "Kids, you know Daddy made some bad choices and that's why he can't come home right now. Well, it turns out he made even worse choices than we thought. Daddy took money that didn't belong to him, and now he's hiding because he doesn't want to face the consequences." "Is Daddy a criminal?" Sophia asked with the blunt curiosity of an 11-year-old. "Yes, sweetheart. Daddy broke the law and that makes him a criminal." Tyler looked confused. "But criminals are bad people. Daddy's not a bad person." "Daddy did bad things, buddy. Sometimes people we love make choices that hurt other people. That doesn't mean we stop loving them, but it does mean they have to face the consequences of their choices." "Are we in trouble too?" Emma asked in a small voice. "No, baby. We didn't do anything wrong. But we might have some difficult times ahead while we figure out how to fix the problems Daddy created." Brianna didn't tell them about the loan sharks or the danger their father's choices might have put them in. They didn't need that fear on top of everything else. But as she tucked them into bed that night, Brianna made a promise to herself and to her children. No matter what Nathan had done, no matter what consequences his actions brought down on their family, she would protect them. She would find a way to rebuild their lives from the ashes of his betrayal. Nathan Johnson had made his choice. Now it was time for Brianna to make hers. And her choice was to fight. Margaret Chen's office felt different this time. The polished surfaces and expensive furniture that had once intimidated Brianna now felt like weapons in an arsenal she was learning to use. She'd brought reinforcements too, her mother Patricia and her best friend Candace, both armed with notebooks and determined expressions. "The documents your husband's girlfriend provided change everything," Margaret said, spreading the evidence across her conference table. "Nathan isn't just guilty of embezzlement anymore. We're looking at wire fraud, forgery, money laundering, and flight to avoid prosecution. The FBI is treating this as a federal case now." "What does that mean for the divorce proceedings?" Brianna asked. "It means we have enough ammunition to destroy him in family court. No judge is going to award custody to a father who's a federal fugitive. But it also means this is going to get complicated fast." Margaret explained that Nathan's criminal activities had created a legal maze. The money he'd stolen would have to be paid back, but determining what belonged to whom would take months. The house had been secretly remortgaged, putting them in immediate financial jeopardy. Worst of all, the loan sharks Nathan owed money to were starting to make inquiries. "They came to his office yesterday," Margaret said. Asked Tom Peterson where Nathan lived. Tom was smart enough to call the police, but these people don't give up easily. Patricia leaned forward in her chair. Are my daughter and grandchildren in danger? I don't think they're in immediate physical danger, Margaret said carefully. These men want their money, not revenge. But they might try to pressure Brianna for information about Nathan's whereabouts or assets. I don't know where he is, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell them. Good. Don't try to be a hero though. If they approach you, call the police immediately. The next hour was spent developing strategy. Margaret had already filed for emergency custody, citing Nathan's abandonment and criminal activity. She'd also requested immediate spousal and child support, though collecting it would be nearly impossible while Nathan was a fugitive. The good news is that Nathan's criminal behavior works in our favor for everything else, Margaret explained. The court is going to be very sympathetic to a mother whose husband abandoned 4 children to flee prosecution. We can ask for the house, full custody, and punitive damages. The bad news is that Nathan doesn't have any legitimate money left to pay you with, Candace pointed out. You can't get blood from a stone. That's where forensic accounting comes in, Margaret said. Nathan may have spent or hidden the money, but criminals always leave trails. We're going to find every asset he tried to hide and claw back every penny we can. After the meeting, Brianna's mother drove her to the bank to deal with yet another crisis. The mortgage payment was due, but their joint checking account had been frozen as part of the criminal investigation. I can't access my own money to pay my own mortgage, Brianna told the loan officer, a middle-aged man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mrs. Johnson, I understand your frustration, but our hands are tied. Until the federal investigation is complete, we can't release any funds that might be considered evidence. So what am I supposed to do? Let my house go into foreclosure while the FBI sorts through my husband's crimes. We can work with you on a temporary payment deferral, but for how long? This investigation could take months. Patricia stepped in with the solution Brianna had been dreading but knew was inevitable. I'll cover the mortgage payments until this gets sorted out, her mother said quietly. Mom, I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. Those children are not going to lose their home because their father is a selfish criminal. It was the first of many financial indignities Nathan's crimes would force on them. Brianna's pride was taking a beating, but her children's welfare came first. That afternoon brought a call from Detective Rivera with an update on Nathan's whereabouts. We tracked him to Costa Rica, Detective Rivera said. He flew from Hawaii to San Jose using his real passport. After that, the trail goes cold. So he's hiding in Costa Rica? Probably. Costa Rica doesn't have an extradition treaty with the United States for financial crimes. Nathan could live there indefinitely as long as he doesn't commit any local crimes. What about the money he stole? Can't you freeze his accounts or something? We're working on it, but Nathan was smarter than we gave him credit for. He moved most of the money through cryptocurrency exchanges and offshore shell companies. Even if we find it, recovery is going to be complicated. That evening, Brianna sat down with the kids to explain Daddy's latest development. Remember how I told you Daddy was hiding because he broke the law? Well, he's hiding in another country now. A place called Costa Rica. Is he ever coming home? Tyler asked. I don't know, buddy. That depends on choices Daddy makes that we can't control. Good, Sophia said fiercely. I don't want him to come back. He hurt our family and he hurt Mom. Brianna was surprised by the vehemence in her daughter's voice. Sophia, it's okay to be angry with Daddy. But someday you might feel differently. No, I won't. Daddy's a liar and a thief. I heard you talking to Grandma about how he stole money from his clients. That's stealing from other families too. Out of the mouths of babes again. Sophia was right, Nathan's crimes had ripple effects beyond their family. His clients, many of them elderly people saving for retirement, had been victimized too. Can we change our last name? Sophia asked. I don't want to be a Johnson anymore if Daddy's a criminal. It was a conversation Brianna hadn't anticipated, but she understood the impulse. The Johnson name would be associated with scandal and crime in their community. Maybe a fresh start was exactly what they needed. We can talk about that when the divorce is final, she said. For now, let's focus on taking care of each other. That night, after the kids were asleep, Brianna found herself doing something she hadn't done since college, researching career options online. Her part-time substitute teaching income wasn't nearly enough to support 4 children, especially with the mortgage payments her mother was covering. She'd majored in education but had always been good with numbers. Nathan used to joke that she should have been the financial advisor in the family. Now, looking at accounting programs and business degrees, she wondered if he'd been right. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I know where Nathan is hiding money. We should meet. Violet again. Part of Brianna wanted to ignore her, but if Nathan's ex-girlfriend had information that could help recover stolen assets, she needed to hear it. She texted back, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Coffee shop on Main Street. The next morning brought another unwelcome visitor. This time it was two men in expensive suits who looked like they'd stepped out of a mob movie. They knocked politely and spoke quietly, but there was something in their eyes that made Brianna's blood run cold. Mrs. Johnson? We're looking for your husband. He owes our employer a significant amount of money. I don't know where he is, Brianna said through the chain-locked door. We understand he's left the country, but he may have left behind assets that could be used to satisfy his debt. Any assets my husband had are now part of a federal investigation. You'll need to speak with the FBI. The taller man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Mrs. Johnson, our employer is not as patient as the federal government. If Nathan has left you with any way to contact him, it would be in everyone's best interest for him to make arrangements to pay what he owes. I have no way to contact my husband. He abandoned his family to become a fugitive. If you have a problem with that, take it up with him. After they left, Brianna immediately called Detective Rivera and Margaret Chin. Both advised her to document everything and call 911 if the men returned. Nathan's really done it now, Margaret said grimly. He's put you and the children in potential danger from criminals while making himself untouchable in Costa Rica. This is going to make our job harder, but it also gives us more ammunition in family court. Meeting Violet at the coffee shop that afternoon felt surreal. They were two women whose lives had been destroyed by the same man, sitting across from each other like they were discussing the weather instead of financial crimes and international fugitives. Nathan called me last night, Violet said without preamble. He's panicking. The men he owes money to have been asking questions about me too. He wants me to wire him money so he can move deeper into hiding. I assume you told him no. I told him a lot more than no. But here's the thing. Nathan let slip that he has money hidden in accounts he thinks no one knows about. He mentioned specific banks, account numbers. He was drunk and scared and talking too much. Violet slid a piece of paper across the table. I wrote down everything I could remember. There's at least $200,000 in various accounts that weren't part of what he showed the forensic accountant. Brianna stared at the paper. If this information was accurate, it could change everything for her and the children. Why are you helping me? Because I made a mistake getting involved with a married man, but I'm not going to compound that mistake by helping him escape justice. And because those are legitimate marital assets that belong to your children. That evening, Brianna forwarded Violet's information to Margaret and the FBI. Within hours, they'd confirmed the existence of at least 3 hidden accounts containing significant amounts of money. This is exactly what we needed, Margaret said excitedly. We can freeze these accounts and petition the court to release the funds for support of Nathan's children. This could solve your immediate financial problems. For the first time since Nathan's text message had changed her life, Brianna felt something approaching hope. Nathan might be hiding in Costa Rica, but his money wasn't. And money was exactly what she and her children needed to rebuild their lives. Nathan had underestimated her again. He'd assumed she'd be too devastated, too dependent, too naive to fight back effectively. Instead, she was learning to use every weapon at her disposal. The law, the evidence of his crimes, even his own girlfriend's conscience. The war was far from over, but Brianna was starting to think she might actually win it. 3 weeks later, Nathan made the mistake that would ultimately destroy him completely. He came back. Brianna was getting ready for work on a Tuesday morning when her neighbor Mrs. Chen called in a panic. Brianna, honey, there's a man in your backyard. He's trying to get in through the sliding door. Brianna's blood turned to ice. She looked out her bedroom window and saw Nathan crouched by the back patio, working on the lock with what looked like a credit card. Kids, get in my bedroom and lock the door, she called out, her voice surprisingly steady. Tyler, call 911. She grabbed the baseball bat Nathan had bought for Tyler's Little League games and headed downstairs. By the time she reached the kitchen, Nathan was inside, looking haggard and desperate. His Hawaiian tan had faded and he'd lost weight. His clothes were wrinkled and dirty, like he'd been sleeping in them. Hello, Brianna. You need to leave. No. The police are on their way. Nathan held up his hands in a placating gesture. I just want to talk. I want to see my kids. Your kids? You abandoned your kids. You're a fugitive from justice. You don't get to want anything involving children you abandoned. I never meant for things to go this far. I made mistakes, but I'm trying to fix them. Fix them? You stole from your clients, forged my signature on loan documents, and fled the country. You put our children in danger from loan sharks. What part of that are you planning to fix? Nathan took a step closer and Brianna raised the baseball bat. Don't come any closer. I'm serious, Nathan. I will defend myself and my children. You're being ridiculous. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm their father. You stopped being their father when you chose another woman and a criminal lifestyle over your family. The sound of sirens was getting louder. Nathan heard them too, and his expression changed from pleading to desperate. Bree, listen to me. I can make this right. I have money. I can pay back everything I took. With what? The money you stole from your clients? The money you borrowed from criminals? Or maybe the money you've been hiding in secret accounts? Nathan's face went pale. How do you know about the accounts in the Cayman Islands? About the cryptocurrency wallets? About the shell companies you set up in Panama? I know about all of it, Nathan. Your girlfriend Violet was very helpful. Violet wouldn't. Violet gave me everything. Account numbers, passwords, transaction records. She also told me about the loan sharks who've been looking for you. Did you know they came to my house? They threatened me and our children because of your gambling debts. The sirens were right outside now. Car doors slammed and heavy footsteps approached the house. Police, open up. In here. Brianna called out. The back door. Nathan made a desperate lunge toward the stairs, probably trying to get to the kids, but Brianna was ready for him. She swung the bat, not to hurt him but to block his path. He stumbled backward, tripping over the coffee table and falling hard. 3 police officers burst through the sliding door, weapons drawn. Nathan Johnson, you're under arrest for embezzlement, wire fraud, forgery, and flight to avoid prosecution. As they handcuffed him, Nathan looked at Brianna with something between hatred and disbelief. I can't believe you're doing this to me. I'm your husband. No, Brianna said calmly. You were my husband. Now you're just a criminal who broke into my house. After Nathan was taken away, Detective Rivera stayed to take Brianna's statement and check on the children. How did he get back into the country? Brianna asked. He never left. We thought he'd fled to Costa Rica, but he only went there long enough to move money around and establish false trails. He's been hiding in Florida for the past 2 weeks, probably trying to figure out how to access the accounts you helped us freeze. The kids had watched the arrest from the upstairs window. When Detective Rivera finally left, they came downstairs cautiously. Is Daddy going to jail? Emma asked. Yes, sweetheart. Daddy broke many laws and now he has to face the consequences. Good, Tyler said with surprising firmness. He scared you, Mom? I heard you yelling. I wasn't scared, Brianna said, though that wasn't entirely true. I was protecting our family. Are we safe now? Sophia asked. We're safer. Daddy can't hurt us anymore, and the police know about the bad men he owes money to. That afternoon, Margaret Chen called with an update from the courthouse. Nathan's been denied bail, she said with satisfaction. The judge considers him a flight risk, which is hardly surprising given that he just spent 3 weeks as a fugitive. He's going to stay in jail until trial. How long will that take? Months probably. But here's the good news. Now that we have Nathan in custody, we can move forward aggressively with the divorce proceedings. I'm filing for an emergency hearing to settle custody and support issues. What about the hidden money? The FBI has frozen all the accounts Violet identified, plus several more they discovered during their investigation. We're talking about almost $400,000 that Nathan tried to hide from you and the children. $400,000. It wasn't enough to replace everything Nathan had stolen and spent, but it was enough to secure their future. Enough to pay off the mortgage, pay back her mother, maybe even go back to school to get a degree that would lead to better employment. That evening, Brianna made a decision that surprised even her. She called Violet. I wanted to thank you, Brianna said when Violet answered. Nathan was arrested this morning trying to break into my house. The information you gave us helped make sure he couldn't access any more money to fund his escape. I'm glad he's finally facing consequences, Violet said. I know this doesn't fix anything, but I want you to know I deeply regret my part in what happened to your family. Violet, can I ask you something? Did Nathan ever talk about his children when you were together? There was a long pause. He complained about them. Said they were expensive and demanding. Said being a father had ruined his freedom. I should have realized then what kind of man he really was. After hanging up, Brianna felt a strange sense of closure. Nathan hadn't just betrayed her. he'd resented their children, viewed them as burdens instead of blessings. In a twisted way, his abandonment had probably been a gift. Her kids deserved better than a father who saw them as obstacles to his happiness. The next few days brought a parade of legal developments. Nathan's arrest made the local news, which was embarrassing but also validating. The community could see that Brianna was the victim, not the accomplice. More importantly, the criminal charges gave Margaret tremendous leverage in family court. Nathan's lawyer is already talking about a plea bargain, Margaret reported after a meeting with prosecutors. He's looking at 10 to 15 years in federal prison. His only hope of a lighter sentence is cooperation, which means giving up information about his criminal associates and helping recover more stolen money. What does that mean for the divorce? It means Nathan's going to agree to whatever terms we demand. He can't afford to fight us in family court while he's trying to negotiate a plea deal in criminal court. The emergency custody hearing was scheduled for the following week. Margaret was confident they'd get everything they asked for: full custody, the house, child support, and a share of any recovered assets. Nathan made the classic mistake of thinking he was smarter than everyone else, Margaret said. He underestimated you, underestimated the legal system, and overestimated his own cleverness. Now he's going to pay the price. That Sunday, Brianna took the kids to church for the first time since Nathan had left. It felt like a statement, a public declaration that they were surviving and moving forward. The pastor, who knew their situation, offered a prayer for families dealing with betrayal and loss. After the service, several people approached Brianna to offer support. Mrs. Patterson, whose husband had died the previous year, invited the kids to her granddaughter's birthday party. Mr. Rodriguez, Tyler's soccer coach, mentioned that the team was looking for an assistant coach and wondered if Brianna might be interested. For the first time in months, Brianna felt like part of a community again instead of a scandal to be whispered about. That evening, as she tucked the kids into bed, Emma asked a question that broke Brianna's heart. "Mommy, are you going to find us a new daddy?" "Oh, sweetheart, I'm not thinking about that right now. We're just focusing on taking care of each other." "I don't want a new daddy," Ethan said from his twin bed. "I want you to be our daddy and our mommy." Tyler appeared in the doorway. "Mom, can I ask you something private?" After getting the twins settled, Brianna followed Tyler to his room. "Are you sad that Daddy's in jail?" Tyler asked. Brianna considered the question carefully. Was she sad? Or was she relieved? "I'm sad that Daddy made choices that hurt our family," she said finally. "But I'm not sad that he can't hurt us anymore." "Me neither," Tyler said. "I was scared when he came back. He looked different. Angry. You don't have to worry about that anymore, buddy. Daddy can't come back without permission from the court, and that's not going to happen for a very long time." "Good. I like it better when it's just us." Nathan's first week in jail apparently gave him time to think, because his strategy quickly shifted from denial to manipulation. The call started 3 days after his arrest. "You have a collect call from the Fulton County Jail. Will you accept charges?" Brianna hung up. Nathan called back immediately. She hung up again. On the third call, curiosity got the better of her. "What do you want, Nathan?" "Bree, thank God. I was starting to think you'd blocked me completely." "I should have. You broke into our house. You terrified the children. I made a mistake. I was desperate to see my kids and I wasn't thinking clearly. But we need to talk about this divorce situation. My lawyer says you're asking for full custody." "Your lawyer is correct." "That's not fair, Bree. Those are my children too." The audacity was breathtaking. "You abandoned them, Nathan. You chose another woman and a criminal lifestyle over your children. You put them in danger with your gambling debts. What part of that makes you think you deserve custody?" "I made mistakes, but I'm still their father. You can't just erase me from their lives." "I'm not erasing you. You erased yourself. I'm just protecting them from further damage. The kids need their father. The kids need stability, security, and honesty. You've proven you can't provide any of those things." Nathan's voice grew more agitated. "You're being vindictive, Brianna. You're using my situation to punish me." "Your situation? You mean your federal criminal charges? Your gambling addiction? Your affair? Which situation specifically?" "I can change. People deserve second chances. You had 12 years of chances, Nathan. You used them all up when you decided to steal from your clients and abandon your family." The next day, Nathan tried a different approach. He had his mother call. "Brianna, honey, I know Nathan made some terrible mistakes," said Gloria Johnson, Nathan's mother. "But he's still the father of your children. Surely you can find it in your heart to forgive him." Gloria, I appreciate your concern for your grandchildren, but Nathan's choices have put them in real danger. I have to protect them first. But keeping them from their father isn't healthy. Children need both parents. Children need parents who put their welfare first. Nathan has proven he can't do that. He was just going through a difficult time. Men sometimes make foolish decisions when they're feeling trapped. The victim blaming was infuriating, but Brianna kept her voice calm. Nathan wasn't trapped, Gloria. He was a grown man who chose to have an affair, steal money, and abandon his responsibilities. Those weren't mistakes made in a moment of weakness. They were calculated decisions made over months. You're being very harsh, dear. Nathan loves those children. If Nathan loved his children, he wouldn't have put them in a position where loan sharks came to their home looking for money. He wouldn't have stolen their college funds to pay for his girlfriend's vacation. Love isn't just a feeling, Gloria. It's a choice. And Nathan chose himself over his children every single time. The calls escalated throughout the week. Nathan's brothers, his sister, even some mutual friends who'd apparently gotten a very different version of events. Each conversation followed the same pattern, acknowledging that Nathan had made mistakes, but insisting that Brianna was being unreasonably harsh by not giving him another chance. The worst call came from Nathan's father. Brianna, you're destroying my son's life over a midlife crisis, said Robert Johnson. Every man goes through something like this. It doesn't mean he's a bad father. Robert, your son stole $70,000 from his clients. He forged my signature on loan documents. He endangered his children by borrowing money from criminals. That's not a midlife crisis. That's a crime spree. You're exaggerating. Nathan told us the real story. The real story is in the federal indictment. Would you like me to read it to you? But the pressure campaign wasn't limited to phone calls. Nathan's family started showing up places where Brianna and the kids went. His sister appeared at Tyler's soccer game, trying to talk to the kids without Brianna's permission. His mother waited outside Sophia's school, attempting to give her granddaughter gifts and messages from Nathan. This is harassment, Brianna told Margaret during an emergency meeting. They're trying to manipulate the children and undermine my authority as their parent. It's also illegal, Margaret said grimly. I'm filing for a restraining order against Nathan's family. They can't contact you or the children without court approval. They think I'm being vindictive. Of course they do. Nathan's painted himself as the victim in this story. Classic narcissist behavior. He's convinced them that everything that's happened is your fault somehow. The situation came to a head when Nathan's brother Marcus showed up at Brianna's house on a Saturday morning. Brianna, we need to talk. This has gone far enough. You need to leave my property, Marcus. Immediately. Those kids have a right to know their father. You can't keep them from him forever. I can, and I will keep them from a father who's in federal prison for stealing money and abandoning his family. Nathan made some mistakes, but... Stop calling them mistakes. Brianna's composure finally snapped. Mistakes are forgetting to pick up milk at the store or missing a parent-teacher conference. Nathan committed federal crimes. He stole money from elderly people who trusted him with their retirement savings. He put his children in danger with criminals. Those aren't mistakes, Marcus. That's who your brother really is. Marcus stepped closer, his voice threatening. You better watch yourself, Brianna. Family is family. Blood is thicker than water. Are you threatening me? I'm just saying Nathan has people who care about him. People who don't appreciate what you're doing to him. Brianna pulled out her phone and started recording. Please repeat that threat so I can play it for the police. Marcus realized his mistake and backed down, but not before making his position clear. This isn't over. Nathan's going to get out eventually, and when he does, you're going to wish you'd been more reasonable. After Marcus left, Brianna called Detective Rivera and played the recording. Within hours, Marcus Johnson was arrested for criminal threats and violation of the restraining order that had just been issued. Nathan's family doesn't understand that their intimidation tactics are only making things worse for him, Detective Rivera explained. Every threat, every violation, every attempt to pressure you just gives us more evidence of why Nathan and his associates are dangerous to you and your children. That evening, Margaret called with an update from Nathan's criminal attorney. Nathan's legal team is getting desperate, she said. They're trying to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor isn't interested in going easy on him. They want to make an example out of financial advisors who steal from clients. What does that mean? It means Nathan's looking at significant prison time. His lawyer knows this, so they're getting more aggressive about the divorce proceedings. They want to settle everything quickly so Nathan can focus on his criminal defense. What are they offering? Joint custody, shared assets, minimal child support. Basically, they want you to pretend none of this happened and split everything 50-50. Brianna laughed bitterly. After everything he's done? After his family has spent the week threatening me and harassing my children? That's exactly what I told them. We're not negotiating, Brianna. We're going to court and we're going to get everything we asked for. The harassment campaign had backfired spectacularly. Instead of making Brianna more willing to compromise, it had strengthened her resolve and provided additional evidence of why Nathan and his family were dangerous. But it had also shown her something else. Nathan wasn't done fighting. Even from a jail cell, he was trying to control and manipulate the situation. He was using his family as proxies to pressure her into submission. It wasn't going to work. If anything, their behavior had reminded her of why she was fighting so hard to protect her children from people who thought crimes were just mistakes, and that threatened women who refused to be victims. Nathan had declared war on her family the day he sent that text from Hawaii. Now his own family had joined the battle. But they'd underestimated their opponent. Brianna wasn't the same woman who'd stood in that parking lot reading Nathan's betrayal on her phone. She'd learned to fight, learned to use the legal system, learned to protect herself and her children from people who wanted to hurt them. The Johnson family was about to learn what happened when they threatened a mother defending her cubs. The courtroom was packed on the morning of Nathan's divorce hearing. His family filled 2 rows behind the defendant's table, their faces grim with determination. Margaret had warned Brianna this would happen. Nathan's supporters would try to create a show of solidarity, hoping to influence the judge. But Brianna wasn't alone either. Her mother sat directly behind her, along with Candace, Mrs. Rodriguez from Tyler's school, and several other parents who'd become part of her support network. Detective Rivera was there too, ready to testify about Nathan's criminal activities if needed. Judge Patricia Hendricks was known for being tough on cases involving children. She'd been a family court judge for 15 years and had seen every kind of custody battle imaginable. Margaret had specifically requested Judge Hendricks, knowing her reputation for not tolerating parents who put their own interests above their children's welfare. Nathan looked different in his orange jail jumpsuit. The confident, charming man who'd once sold financial advice to trusting clients was gone. In his place sat someone who looked defeated and desperate. His attorney, William Sterling, was expensive and well-dressed, but he had an impossible case to argue. How do you defend a man who abandoned his children to become a fugitive? Your Honor, Sterling began, my client acknowledges that he's made some serious mistakes. But Nathan Johnson is still the father of 4 children who love him and need him in their lives. Mrs. Johnson's request for sole custody is vindictive and not in the children's best interests. Margaret stood to respond. Your Honor, Mr. Johnson didn't make mistakes. He committed crimes. Federal crimes that put his children in danger. He stole their college funds, forged his wife's signature on loan documents, and fled the country to avoid prosecution. He then broke into the family home in violation of a restraining order. This isn't a father who made poor choices. This is a criminal who happens to have children. Judge Hendricks looked at the thick file in front of her. Mr. Sterling, I've read the police reports and the federal indictment. Your client is facing serious criminal charges that could result in decades in prison. How exactly do you propose he exercise custody from a federal penitentiary? We're hopeful that Mr. Johnson will receive a lenient sentence in exchange for cooperation with federal authorities. He could be eligible for supervised visitation within. Within what time frame, counselor? 5 years? 10 years? 15? Are you asking this court to keep a custody arrangement in limbo indefinitely while your client serves time for stealing money from elderly clients? Sterling fumbled for an answer, but Judge Hendricks wasn't finished. Furthermore, I see evidence that Mr. Johnson's family has been harassing Mrs. Johnson and attempting to contact the children in violation of court orders. Mr. Johnson's brother was arrested just last week for making threats against Mrs. Johnson. This court takes a very dim view of family members who try to intimidate the custodial parent. The first witness was Detective Rivera, who testified about Nathan's crimes and the danger his activities had posed to his family. Mr. Johnson borrowed money from individuals connected to organized crime, Detective Rivera explained. These men came to Mrs. Johnson's home looking for payment. They made it clear that Mr. Johnson's debt was a family responsibility in their view. Are Mrs. Johnson and her children still in danger? Judge Hendricks asked. We don't believe so, Your Honor. Mr. Johnson's criminal associates are more interested in recovering their money than seeking revenge. But his actions certainly put his family at risk. The second witness was Violet Morrison. Brianna had been surprised when Margaret suggested calling Nathan's former girlfriend, but it turned out to be a brilliant strategy. "Miss Morrison," Margaret said, "you had a relationship with Mr. Johnson for approximately 6 months. During that time, did he ever express affection for his children?" "No, ma'am. Nathan complained about his children constantly. He said they were expensive and demanding. He resented having to pay for their activities and schooling." "Did he ever mention missing them while you were together?" "Never. He said his old life was suffocating him, that he felt trapped by family responsibilities. He was planning to disappear permanently." Sterling tried to object, but Judge Hendricks allowed the testimony to continue. "Miss Morrison, did Mr. Johnson ask you to help him hide assets from his wife and children?" "Yes. He wanted me to open bank accounts in my name so he could move money where Mrs. Johnson couldn't find it. He said she was too stupid to figure out what he was doing." That last detail hit like a bombshell. Even Nathan's family looked shocked by the callousness of his words. The final witness was Dr. Sarah Chin, a child psychologist who'd been evaluating the Johnson children since Nathan's arrest. "In my professional opinion," Dr. Chin testified, "these children have actually shown improvement in their emotional and behavioral health since their father's absence. The oldest child, Sophia, told me she felt relieved that she no longer had to worry about her father's unpredictable moods. The younger children have stopped having nightmares and are sleeping through the night again." In your professional opinion, Dr. Chin, would visitation with Mr. Johnson be beneficial for these children? "Not at this time, Your Honor. These children are still processing the trauma of abandonment and the discovery that their father is a criminal. Forcing contact before they're ready could cause significant psychological harm." When it was Sterling's turn to present Nathan's case, he called character witnesses: Nathan's mother, his brother who hadn't been arrested, a longtime friend from college. But their testimony felt hollow compared to the evidence of Nathan's crimes. Gloria Johnson cried on the witness stand, talking about how much Nathan loved his children and how everyone deserved forgiveness. But when Margaret cross-examined her, the truth came out. "Mrs. Johnson, when was the last time your son called to ask about his children's welfare?" He's been dealing with legal issues." "Before his arrest, ma'am?" "When did he last call to check on his children?" "I'm not sure of the exact date." "According to phone records, your son hasn't called to inquire about his children's welfare in over 8 months. Does that sound like the behavior of a loving father?" The final blow came when Judge Hendricks asked Nathan if he wanted to address the court directly. Against his lawyer's obvious advice, Nathan stood up. "Your Honor, I know I've made mistakes. But those are my children and they need their father. I was going through a difficult time and I made some bad decisions, but that doesn't mean I should lose my children forever." "Mr. Johnson," Judge Hendricks said, "you stole money from your clients, including elderly people who trusted you with their life savings. You forged your wife's signature on legal documents. You abandoned your 4 children without warning or explanation. You fled the country to avoid prosecution. And when you returned, you broke into your family's home in violation of a restraining order. Which of these do you consider a mistake, rather than a deliberate choice?" Nathan's composure cracked. "I was trying to provide for my family. Everything I did was for them." "By stealing from other families? By spending marital assets on vacations with your girlfriend? By leaving your children standing in a parking lot wondering where their father was?" I can explain." "Mr. Johnson, you had months to explain your behavior to your wife and children. Instead, you chose to flee the country. You had the opportunity to turn yourself in and face your responsibilities. Instead, you chose to hide while your wife dealt with the consequences of your crimes. At what point in this pattern of behavior were you thinking about your children's welfare?" Nathan had no answer. Judge Hendricks took a brief recess to review all the evidence, but when she returned, her decision was swift and comprehensive. "This court finds that Nathan Johnson has demonstrated a pattern of behavior that is fundamentally incompatible with the responsibilities of parenthood. He has shown disregard for his children's emotional, financial, and physical security. He has committed crimes that have brought shame and danger to his family. He has made choices that prioritize his own desires over his children's welfare." She paused, looking directly at Nathan. "Therefore, this court awards sole legal and physical custody of all 4 minor children to Brianna Johnson. Nathan Johnson's parental rights are hereby terminated." The words hit the courtroom like a thunderclap. Even Margaret looked surprised. She'd expected restricted custody, not complete termination of parental rights. "Furthermore," Judge Hendricks continued, "this court orders that all marital assets recovered from Mr. Johnson's criminal activities be awarded to Mrs. Johnson for the support and welfare of the minor children." Mr. Johnson is ordered to pay restitution not only to his criminal victims but also to his family for the emotional and financial damage he has caused. Nathan's family erupted in protests, but Judge Hendricks wasn't finished. Finally, this court is issuing a permanent restraining order preventing Nathan Johnson and all members of his family from contacting Mrs. Johnson or her children without express court approval. The harassment and intimidation tactics employed by the Johnson family over the past weeks are unacceptable and will not be tolerated. As Nathan was led away in handcuffs, his family glaring at Brianna with undisguised hatred, she felt something she hadn't experienced in months: complete victory. Nathan had underestimated her one last time. He'd thought his charm and manipulation would work on Judge Hendricks the way they'd worked on his clients and his family. Instead, his arrogance and lack of genuine remorse had convinced the judge that he was beyond redemption as a father. Walking out of the courthouse with her mother and Margaret, Brianna felt like a different person than the woman who'd received that devastating text message months ago. Nathan had tried to destroy her and her children, but instead he'd forged her into someone stronger, smarter, and more determined than she'd ever been. The war was over, and Brianna had won everything. 6 months later, Brianna stood in her newly renovated kitchen, watching her children through the window as they played in the backyard. The house was truly theirs now, the mortgage paid off with money recovered from Nathan's hidden accounts, the legal bills settled, and even some funds left over for home improvements and college savings accounts. Tyler was teaching the twins how to pitch a baseball, his technique much improved after months of working with Mr. Rodriguez, who'd become both a mentor and a father figure to all 4 children. Sophia was reading on the swing Nathan had installed 3 years ago, back when he'd still been pretending to be a devoted family man. The transformation in the children had been remarkable. Without Nathan's volatile moods and unpredictable behavior, they'd blossomed into happier, more confident versions of themselves. The nightmares had stopped. The anxiety had faded. They'd adapted to their new reality with the resilience that only children possess. "Mom?" Emma called from the sliding door. "Detective Rivera is here." Detective Rivera had become almost a family friend over the months of investigation and legal proceedings. She'd been the one to call Brianna with updates on Nathan's case, including the news that he'd finally accepted a plea deal. 25 years federal prison, Detective Rivera said, settling into a kitchen chair with a cup of coffee. He'll be eligible for parole in 15, but given his lack of cooperation and continued attempts to hide assets, the parole board probably won't be sympathetic. What about the restitution? That's actually why I'm here. The forensic accountants found more hidden money. A lot more. Nathan was even more thorough in his theft than we initially realized. The total recovery is approaching $700,000. Brianna nearly dropped her coffee mug. $700,000? Your share, after paying back Nathan's victims, comes to about $400,000. More than enough to secure your children's futures. It was more money than Brianna had ever imagined having. College funds were no longer a worry. She could finish her accounting degree without financial stress. They could travel, maybe take the kids to Europe or Disney World, experiences Nathan had always said were too expensive. There's more, Detective Rivera continued. Nathan's criminal associates have been arrested. The loan shark operation he was involved with has been shut down. You and the children are completely safe now. After Detective Rivera left, Brianna called Margaret to share the news. This is unprecedented, Margaret said excitedly. I've never seen such a complete victory in a custody case. Nathan lost his children, his freedom, and every penny he tried to hide. He destroyed his life and gained absolutely nothing. That evening, Brianna gathered her children for a family meeting. Over the past months, these meetings had become a regular occurrence, a way to keep everyone informed and involved in important decisions. Kids, I have some good news to share. The police found more of the money Daddy stole, and after paying back the people he hurt, we're going to have enough money to make sure you can all go to college and that we'll never have to worry about paying our bills again. Does this mean we're rich? Ethan asked with 6-year-old directness. It means we're secure, Brianna said. We don't have to worry about money anymore, but more importantly, we don't have to worry about Daddy anymore either. The judge made sure he can't contact us or bother us ever again. Good, Sophia said firmly. She'd grown into a fierce protector of her younger siblings over the past months. I don't want him to ever hurt you again, Mom. He can't hurt us anymore, sweetheart. We won. That weekend, Brianna did something she'd been planning for months. She took the kids to the courthouse to legally change their last name from Johnson to Williams, her maiden name. It was a symbolic fresh start, a way to shed the last connection to Nathan's crimes and betrayal. "From now on, we're the Williams family," she announced as they walked down the courthouse steps with their new documents. "I like that better," Tyler said. "Williams is a strong name." The following Monday brought another surprise. Tom Peterson, Nathan's former boss, called with an unexpected offer. "Brianna, I know you're going back to school for accounting, and I wondered if you'd be interested in a part-time position with our firm. We need someone to handle client communications and basic bookkeeping while you finish your degree. You want me to work at the same company where Nathan committed fraud? We want to work with someone who has integrity, someone our clients can trust. Nathan's crimes hurt our reputation, but your cooperation with the investigation showed everyone what kind of person you really are. Several clients have specifically asked if you'd be willing to handle their accounts." It was perfect timing. The job would provide income and experience while she finished her degree, and the flexible schedule would allow her to be available for the children. But the best surprise came from an unexpected source. Violet Morrison called on a Tuesday evening. "I hope you don't mind me calling," Violet said. "I wanted to let you know that I testified at Nathan's sentencing hearing last week. I didn't know you were involved in the criminal case. The prosecutor asked me to describe Nathan's attitude toward his family and his crimes. I told the judge that Nathan showed no remorse for what he'd done to you and the children, only anger that he'd been caught. Thank you for that. There's something else. I've started a support group for women who've been involved with married men. Women who were lied to and manipulated the way I was. I share your story as an example of how these affairs hurt innocent families. It was strange to think that her pain had become part of someone else's healing, but if Violet could help other women avoid making the same mistakes, then something good would come from the nightmare Nathan had put them through." As the first anniversary of Nathan's text message approached, Brianna reflected on how completely her life had changed. The woman who'd stood in that parking lot, devastated and lost, had been transformed into someone strong, independent, and completely in control of her destiny. She'd learned to navigate the legal system, manage finances, and protect her family from people who wanted to hurt them. She'd discovered reserves of strength and intelligence she'd never known she possessed. Most importantly, she'd shown her children that victims could become victors if they refused to give up. Nathan had intended to destroy her life and escape to paradise with his girlfriend. Instead, he'd lost everything while she'd gained everything. He was serving a 25-year sentence in federal prison, abandoned by Violet and disowned by most of his family after the full extent of his crimes became public. Meanwhile, Brianna was thriving. Her children were happy and healthy. Her bank account was secure. Her future was bright with possibilities Nathan had never allowed her to explore. The house was quiet that evening after the children went to bed. Brianna sat on the back porch with a glass of wine, listening to the sounds of her neighborhood and feeling completely at peace. Her phone was silent. No threatening calls from Nathan's family, no emergency meetings with lawyers, no crises to manage. For the first time in years, Brianna Johnson Williams was exactly where she wanted to be, with exactly the life she wanted to have. Nathan had given her the greatest gift imaginable when he'd sent that text message from Hawaii. He'd freed her from a marriage with a man who saw her as an obstacle to his happiness and their children as burdens to be escaped from. She was grateful to him for that in a twisted way. His betrayal had revealed his true character and forced her to discover her own strength. His abandonment had given her the opportunity to build a better life for herself and her children. Nathan had wanted revenge against the life that trapped him. Instead, Brianna had gotten revenge against the man who tried to destroy her. And her revenge was sweet indeed. It was called happiness.